Grab your bathing suit because we're going for a swim. Let's talk about aquatic plants. What's up, fellow plant enthusiasts? My name is Dylan Bain and this is Bain's Botanicals. Today we're going to be talking about aquatic plants. Now this is something that many of us who are into houseplants might not have experience with, because normally aquatic plants are reserved for aquarists, people that deal with fish in aquariums and everything. They're normally the ones that have aquatic plants. But me, I like a little bit of everything. So this is my little planted tank. This is actually a 5-gallon tank, and I do have a fish in here. I'm looking for him on the camera. Oh, he's in the back here. He's a little betta fish named Sunny. He's a yellow crown tail betta. And betta fish are cool because you only house them one per tank when it's a male, and he just loves it in there. He's got lots of space. There he is. He's just a pretty little guy. And betta fish are really smart. Like, they're very interactive. They're very friendly. You can teach them to do tricks. And it's really sad when I see people keep them in vases and things because they need space to move around. This isn't a video about betta fish, but they need at least a good 3 to 5 gallon tank. So if you think about getting one, please don't keep it in a vase. Give him space to move around. There he is. Hi, buddy. Because they're good little pets. They're also good starter pets for kids, as long as you're the one cleaning the tank. But anyway, aquatic plants are kind of where it all began. Life began in the water before it was on the land. And so plants in the water is kind of a cool thing to see, and getting to take care of them in this different form can be really satisfying. And it's really not as difficult as some people make it out to be, and it's really not that complicated either. Like I said, this is just a 5-gallon tank, and this was a kit that came with a filter that is attached to the side. It came with this LED grow light, which is perfect. It's got a nice glass top here, and it is kind of elevated a little bit. You can't see it on some rubber corner feet here. And as far as the contents of the tank, before we get into the actual plants, I've just got a plant substrate, which just comes in a bag. It's kind of a black brown color. It's very pebbly. It's really good for the roots of aquatic plants to help spread. What else is in there? I've got a little petrified rock in there that is just kind of for decoration. And I've got a piece of driftwood, which I think you can see right here. It's kind of covered up right now. These plants are getting a little out of control because they're doing so well. Yeah, and that's it. And I think this looks good. You know, it's very simple. If you look up pictures, or if you get on YouTube and find people who specialize in aquatic plants and specialize in planted tanks, they have some really gorgeous setups, and they're very elaborate. They're very big. They're normally in giant tanks, 20, 30, 50 gallon tanks. And they're just like little ecosystems. And I think that's the cool thing. It's all about maintaining this little ecosystem. And isn't that kind of what we do with our houseplants? We have our little ecosystem of houseplants. That being said, boy, he just wants to hang out back here with me. He doesn't want to be in front of the camera for some reason. As far as general care for aquatic plants, a lot of them are kind of the same. We're only going to go over some simple ones today. There are many species of aquatic plants across many genera, sorry, I'm thinking of movie genres, across many genera. And a lot of the easy care ones have very similar maintenance with them. All I really do as far as the plant goes is I have a little bit of aquatic fertilizer. This one is Flourish, but they make many different kinds. And it's just something you add, like a cap full maybe once a week, or maybe once every couple weeks. What does this one say? 1 capful once or twice a week. But since this is such a small tank, it doesn't really need that much. I don't even think I do a full capful. So just read the directions before you use that, but that just gives your plants the macronutrients that they need, since these guys are not in a river, they're not in nature. Just like our house plants that are in pots, this isn't a tank that does not get, you know, the consistent nutrients that it would in nature. There he is. Hi buddy, look at how pretty he is. Anyway, I've also got some snails in there. Some of them hitchhiked on one of the plants I bought, and they're just these little tiny snails. They're kind of a menace, because snails reproduce prolifically, and if you have 2, you'll have 20 and then 200 before you know it. Other than the fertilizer, I do a water change on this. I'll change out maybe half the water, maybe 40% of the water, just by dunking it out with a cup. You can also do like they make contraptions where you can kind of use a pump to pump the water out. I just dip a cup in, do a 40% water change, maybe once every couple of weeks. It kind of depends on how much light your tank is getting and how good your filter is, because the filter will filter out a lot of the bad particles and things, but the more light you have, the more likely you're going to have algae growth. So that might warrant more frequent water changes. You never want to change out all of the water, because there's a lot of beneficial bacteria and other things living in the water that you can't see, and you don't want to lose those things. So that's why you just do a little bit of the water at the time, a little bit of water at a time. Some people will say only do 20 or 30% of the water, just so that you can maintain the same content within the water. That seems more complicated than it is, but I promise it's not. Just change out a portion of the water, maybe once or twice, you know, I'm sorry, maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks. So it's really pretty easy. I mean, this is a bigger tank, but you could have a smaller tank. Do like a 2-gallon tank. Or if you want to experiment and just get one plant, I've got this, it's kind of a vase. Actually, I think it was for keeping like pasta in. And you could just get an aquatic plant for this, put some substrate at the bottom, keep it under some light, and it'll do just fine. Now again, you're going to want to change out the water every now and then, because the light will produce algae, and of course the algae is going to inhibit the plant growth, because the algae will cover the leaves, and that's going to prevent photosynthesis. So yeah, this is like a cool little, if you want to experiment. Do what feels comfortable. I mean, they make tanks as small as like 1 gallon. Now, I wouldn't recommend getting a betta fish if you're going to get something that small, but you can get that just for some tiny plants. There he goes. So let's get into a few of the plants that I have in here. I've got just a little list of some of the easiest genera of aquatic plants to take care of. The number 1 easiest is probably a plant called Anubias. And this plant right here, with kind of the big leaves down in front here, that is an Anubias barteri. There's many different species of Anubias, and they're all pretty easy to take care of. It's kind of the go-to aquatic plant. And if you notice, I don't know if you can notice, it's actually putting out a new leaf right here. So it's doing pretty well. It's a slow grower, this particular one is, but it's doing fine. Another one that you'll see is called an Amazon sword, and the genus is Echinodorus. The one I have in there is Echinodorus parviflorus, and Echinodorus is like right here. And then I've got another one, there's a sword right there, there's a little bit of it down right there, there's a little bit right here, and that's actually, I think most of those are off the same plant, and it just sort of started to split a little bit, so I divided it. The cool thing about aquatic plants is that they don't necessarily have to be rooted, because they will sprout roots on their own even if they're just floating. And this is a reflection. That's a problem. I wonder if that's been like that the whole time. It's okay. If you notice on this plant, there's a lot of roots that are coming down from the top and kind of going down. So aquatic plants, they don't even need to be anchored. They just look better when they are. And they can propagate very easily. If I broke off a piece of pretty much any one of these plants, it's going to make a new plant. That's just kind of how they are. one of the big differences between aquatic plants and terrestrial plants is that the stomata, which are the microscopic holes on the leaf, on terrestrial plants, they will close up at night, or if it's a cactus, they'll close up during the day to prevent water loss. But aquatic plants, the stomata are open all of the time to allow things to flow freely. They also don't have as much cuticle. Actually, I'm not even sure if they have a cuticle. Cuticle is kind of the thing that makes a leaf rigid to keep it, you know, simple. And if you notice, if I turn the filter on, these plants will kind of flow freely. They don't have that rigidity that a terrestrial plant does because they don't need to remain upright. They remain upright naturally just because they're buoyant. So they don't need that extra cuticle to keep them strong. I guess that was more than one thing that's a big difference between aquatic and terrestrial plants. And there are other differences, but those are the main ones. I got lost. What are we talking about? We're talking about genera. There's also a genus called Hygrophila. The common name is water wisteria. The species is Hygrophila deformis, I believe. It's another pretty simple one. It'll spread. I've had this other plant has kind of taken over, so the Hygrophila I have in here isn't doing very well. There's also Lobelia, and that is this plant right here, the one that I was pointing out the roots on. This is Lobelia cardinalis, and Lobelia has really cute little leaves, and they're very kind of neat looking. This one has gotten really tall. It was only about this tall when I got it, and it has gotten pretty big to the point that it's poking out of the top. I think it's neat that this is coming out of the water like this, because not all aquatic plants will do this, but it's able to maintain itself out of the water a little bit because most of it is underwater and the moisture level above the water is so high. There are aquatic plants that if they come out of the water at all, they'll desiccate. Like they'll immediately start to dry up and they'll brown and everything. But it's cool that this one isn't doing that. So the long stringy one that we see right here that's kind of spreading this way, a lot of people call it Nacarus. I think that's an old name though. The species is actually Ageria dorsa. Is that right? Densa, not dorsa, I'm sorry. It's Ageria densa. Drop everything everywhere. And Ageria grows a lot. This is one of those aquatic plants that will spread, like it'll spread its little tendrils everywhere. And as you can see, it's kind of taking over my tank. I probably need to prune it and just kind of get some of that out of there. But it's really easy. I think it's native to Brazil or South America. So you would never, one other thing, if you're going to throw one of these plants out because maybe it's not doing well or maybe you just don't like it anymore, don't throw it outside. Because if this somehow made it to the water, like a lake, some of these plants are very invasive and it could throw off the ecosystem. So something like that, Ageria, you don't ever want to just go throw that in a lake someplace because it's not native to here and that could really throw off the natural ecosystem in the lake. So if you're going to throw them out, throw them away. Throw them away so that they are dead. You don't want to, I think that's illegal anyway. You don't want to introduce non-native species because that's against the law. I think I've got one more. So I don't have one of these in here, but there's also a genus called Sagittaria, and Sagittaria is just going to look like grass. I think the common name is actually dwarf grass, and it doesn't really get much taller than maybe about that high, and it's kind of a good foreground plant. You'll hear people talking about foreground and background plants. Background plants are tall, so you put them in the back, and the foreground plants go in the front, so that when you're looking at your aquarium, it's a nice stair step. And it can be really pretty, because of course you want to be able to see all your plants. Obviously I could organize this a little bit better, and maybe I will. But for now, it's doing fine. I don't really feel like messing with it. I think that's all I have about aquatic plants. If you guys like this video, I can go into more detail in a future video, but this is just kind of the basics, just to kind of get you guys going. The reason I got a tank like this, I don't remember how much this was, but I think it was over 100. is because I've done this before. Like I said, go get a plastic tank to start. Go to Walmart, get just like a little cheapo tank and just try it. Go get some, go get a couple aquatic plants and just see what happens. You don't have to get this nice substrate. You can just use rocks or pebbles. The smaller the better, because it's easier for the plants to spread their roots a little bit underneath and latch on if the pebbles are smaller. So there's ways that you can economize this for sure. And you don't have to get fish. In fact, it might be easier if you don't get fish, because the thing about fish, they produce waste. And eventually you would kind of have to clean out the bottom, because a lot of waste is going to be gathering at the bottom if you have a lot of fish. My little betta here doesn't produce that much waste, but some people like to get lots of fish in their aquarium and they poop a lot. Or the refuse from the food that you feed them gathers at the bottom, and eventually that can cause problems if it builds up. So those are things for more complex videos. So I think that's all I have. Sorry, I know I rambled a little bit on this one, but I've been wanting to make this one for a while because I know that a lot of people haven't really experimented with aquatic plants, and they're fun. It's really neat seeing these things prosper. Looks like I've got a yellow leaf on this that I need to take off. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Welcome to my kitchen. I haven't done a video in here yet. It really means a lot that you guys subscribe and like my videos, and that you guys talk to me, and that we can communicate. I'm really excited to hear your guys' experience with aquatic plants, because I'm sure somebody has done this, not just me. And let me know if there's other plants that are easy to care for, and what tips you might have to add to what I've said. Thank you guys so much. Sonny really appreciates the support too. He's really excited. See, he's just like looking at my finger like, are we going to play? No, buddy, not right now. We're on TV. Okay, until the next video, I will see you guys very soon, and thank you.